Hello everyone. In this video, let us understand what is Azure Express Route. Azure Express Route is a dedicated connection from your on-prem network, on-prem data center to the Azure network. So this is the Azure network. You use direct connection to access the Azure resources using Express Route. In the previous video, we discussed about VPN gateway, right? So this VPN gateway, it has a constraint. It is very slow because the bandwidth, it uses internet, and also the traffic is encrypted. This can be used only for less critical or development or test workloads. If you wanted to use high availability when connecting to your data center, then you can use virtual private network gateway and express route. This will be at the Azure end, and you can connect to the on-prem network. So this is via the VPN gateway. This has the router configured, and from the express route, you will be able to connect to your on-prem network. Again, this also uses the router to connect. So this is high bandwidth, and this will be low bandwidth. If there is any problem with the express route connection, you can fail over to the low bandwidth network. So what are the features and benefits of using express route? We have the connectivity for all the resources across all the regions. And also we have global connectivity to Microsoft services across all the regions with Express Route. Because Express Route, when you connect, you have the access to Office 365 and also your Azure Virtual Network. And Express Route uses dynamic routing. Basically, it uses BGP as the protocol to dynamically route the IP traffic. And we have built-in redundancy at every peering location. As I said, you have direct access to the Office 365 applications because you have something called as Microsoft peering when you use Express Route connection. So using Microsoft peering, you can directly access all the Office 365 applications. With private peering, we connect to the Azure Virtual Network. This is Azure Virtual Network, and we have created multiple subnets. We can access all these resources using the private peering. Let us see what is global connectivity. If I have a data center, I have this data center which is DC1. This is located in US region, and this is my data center number 2, which is in Europe location. So these are two different regions, US and Europe. These are all on-prem data center. This is not Azure region. This is an on-prem data center. I wanted to have connection to my Azure Virtual Network to the Europe region via the Express Route. So the Europe region on-prem data center is using the Express Route to access the Azure resources, and the US region is also using Express Route to access the Azure resources for US region. If I have multiple data center like this, I can simply use the Express Route global reach to use the same existing Express Route, connect via the Azure and connect to my other data centers. I can exchange the data from US to Europe using the same Express Route connections. There is no need for me to connect via the internet and connect to the other data center. So this is not required. So this is why global reach is useful. Express Route uses the BGP protocol for dynamic routing. So BGP is border gateway protocol, which is used for the dynamic routing, because whenever there is a data exchanged from one location to another location, we need to cross multiple ops. These ops are nothing but the routers. So the data will transfer via multiple routers from one location to another location. So this dynamic routing helps to find which is the easiest path to exchange the data from one location to another location. So this location 1 to location 2, using the dynamic routing protocol, it can find the easiest path to exchange the data. Built-in redundancy. Whenever you use Express Route to connect your data center from one location to the Azure network, there is a service provider who is providing you this service for the connectivity from your on-prem to the Azure network. These service provider for their networking stack use highly available components or redundant components. That is the reason the connectivity from your on-prem data center to the Azure network will be highly available connections. Let us see what are Express Route connectivity models. Basically, there are 4 different types of Express Route connectivity models. Let us start with the co-location at Cloud Exchange. So we have co-location facility. Co-location is a place where you host your services. There can be multiple customers. There can be customer X. This is customer Y and customer X. They can host all the resources in a co-location. Basically, there can be multiple customers using the same co-location facility, which is rented by a third-party vendor. So we have hosted some of the services in a co-location facility. This is a big data center where you have your network configured. At this co-location facility, you have your network configured, and this particular network, whatever you have configured, this will go and connect to the cloud exchange. So there is something called as cloud exchange facility, and this particular cloud exchange facility will be of the service provider. So this is from the service provider itself. So this is called as partner equipment or service provider equipment. This is called as CE, which is customer equipment. And using this partner equipment, you are going and connecting to the Microsoft Edge networking, which is nothing but Microsoft Edge equipment. And this will connect to the Azure network. So this is your Azure VPN gateway for the Express Route. You might say, okay, I am not hosting my services in a co-location facility. I have my own data center from where I wanted to connect to the Azure network. So if you have your own data center, so this is the data center, and we have the networks created, right, at your data center. So usually what will happen is in your data center, you have your network configured. So this will be your network. This is the physical network what you have configured. And sometimes it will be referred as spine and leaf network, or it can be also called as access layer and layer 3 network. So if you have an existing network like this and you don't want to use the co-location facility, in that particular case, there is an option from the service provider who provides the point-to-point connection. So you have point-to-point connection. You connect to the point where the service provider has given an option for you to exchange your network via the point-to-point connection through the service provider network, and eventually you connect to the Azure. So this is also provided by service provider. and eventually it will connect to the Microsoft Edge network. And this Microsoft Edge network is the backbone network for the entire Azure cloud. So once it is connected, you can access all the resources whichever you have provisioned in the Azure cloud, similar to co-location at Cloud Exchange or site-to-site connection. In any-to-any network, you have the similar case here. You have your own data center. You have your existing infrastructure. Similar to how you extend your network to another branch office or remote site. So this is one of the remote location or branch office of your own corporate data center. So this is another data center in a different location. Similar to how you extend your network, you can use the wide area network using router or MPLS, and you will be able to connect to the Azure network. So this is using the existing infrastructure of your data center. It is just like an extension of your data center using your existing infrastructure, and with the help of service provider, you are connecting to the Azure network. Basically, all these three options, whether it is co-location at Cloud Exchange, point-to-point Ethernet connection, any-to-any network, all these three options uses service provider. So we need to have service provider help. So you can check in the portal who are all the service providers who are authenticated by Microsoft for providing the services of Express Route. So there are multiple service providers for each of the countries. Directly from Express Route. So in this particular case, your data center, you are connecting your data center network. As I said, you have the fine and leaf connection or access layer or L3 layer connection. And this particular L3 network, access layer network, whatever which you have configured in your data center, this can be extended via the direct connection to the Microsoft network. So here there is no need of service provider. In this case, there is no service provider. So basically, PE is not required. This is Microsoft Edge network. This is your customer equipment, Microsoft equipment. And you are going to connect using the Microsoft Edge network to the Azure Virtual Network. So this gives more bandwidth compared to the partner equipment connection like co-location or point-to-point and the any-to-any networks. All these three types, basically they share the bandwidth for different customers. So here you are not sharing the bandwidth. You are directly connecting to the Azure network using one of the connection. So the bandwidth is not shared when you use Express Route as the direct connection to the Microsoft network. Security consideration. So whenever you connect using Express Route to the Azure data center or Azure networks, the data is not exchanged via the internet. So it is a private dedicated network which has very high speed bandwidth. You are using the high speed dedicated network to exchange the data from one location to another location, which is nothing but your on-prem network to the Microsoft Azure network. Even though you have Express Route connection, some of the services like DNS queries, certificate revocation, Azure CDN, these data are still being sent over the public internet. So this is one point which needs to be considered for the examination. So in summary, Azure Express Route is a dedicated private network. And this is used for mission critical workloads. So whenever you wanted to use replications like storage replication for backup, you use Express Route. The bandwidth which is provided by the Express Route is sufficient enough for the data which has to be transferred from your on-prem network for the backup or for the replication or for HA and DR. If you have Azure site recovery services running, you use Express Route to fail over and fail back from on-prem to the Azure resources. There are three types of connection. One is co-location, point to point, any to any, and the other one is direct. So these three connectivity options are from service provider, and this is without using the service provider. We are connecting directly to the Microsoft network. So this was an overview about Azure Express Route connections. Thank you for watching the video. If you like the content, please subscribe and share the video. Thank you and take care.